was just taking a look at the tomatoes, and they are out of control, to say the least. They're out of control. You know, they were all planted right down this nice red row here. These two that were in here, I'm trying to figure out where they're even coming from, but they've collapsed out into the row. They got tall enough and they fell over. Now they're all in the row, in the walk row. There's another one there that's in the walkway. That one over there has fell out into the opposite side. This one's fell out of the opposite side. This one's all in the walkway. They are absolutely loaded down. Most of these are Romas. Absolutely loaded down with green tomatoes. Looks like several of them have had issues with a blossom end rot, which I think is a calcium deficiency. Don't quote me on that, but look it up yourself. But I'm finding quite a few that right as they start to ripen, they look like this. Quite a few like that. Quite a few that are still green that don't have that look. So I'm not sure if it happens only right when they ripen, or what the deal is. I need to go do some research on that. But sitting here looking at them, trying to figure out how I can fix them with them all laid out in a row like this. I was thinking about getting some T-posts. My original plan was I was going to try to do the Florida weave on them, and then just being gone for work so much, by the time I get home, you know, when I leave, they look fine. Then when I get home, it's a total mess. And it's, you know, that's like I tell people with beekeeping too, you know, you get in a hive, it's all cross-combed, you gotta fix it. If you don't fix it because you're scared to, it's just gonna get worse. So I'm sitting here looking at it, trying to hatch a plan, and I don't know what that plan will be yet. I was thinking on something of, I guess I could go get some T-posts and kind of do a sort of Florida weave, which normally you wouldn't use T-posts. You would just use wooden stakes because you tie them up before they get laid over. But now they're laid over out in the row, and I want to try to pick them back up. So I'm going to need a bit more rigidity in my posts to be able to pick them up. That's why I'm considering T-posts. So I'm thinking if I start one here, a T-post here, as a guide, and then kind of just crisscross back and forth down the row with the T-post, I can kind of do a sort of, like I said, it's kind of a false Florida weave because the post will actually be out of center along the row. Maybe I can put them in the row actually. And then just, I don't know, regular old twine is going to stretch, and I should probably use like an electric fence wire, but I might use just regular twine to tie them up for now. And then once I get them up and organized, then I can go back through with wire or something that's a little bit stronger. So, yeah, not sure exactly what I want to do, but I need to do something. So let me go look at what I've got as far as posts and wire and whatnot, and see what I can come up with, and then I'll show you. But yeah, this needs to be picked up, otherwise it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So let me see what I can figure out. All right. Well, that was way more than I bargained for. I got fire ant or something crawling on me. Anyway, so this is the best I could come up with for now. I got some of this heavy gauge wire that I bought for actually making hoops. If you go back to this spring when I made my little low tunnels, you can still see a couple hoops in there. I grabbed some of that wire just because it's the stiffest, most supportive wire I have. Unfortunately, it's so stiff that it's actually hard for me to stretch it. But I just drove a couple of T-posts, one on the end, one on each end, and one in the middle to kind of hang it up. And I stretched it as tight as I could by hand to make a header, if you will. And then just went through with the individual twines and tied up every single stem that I could. And I know there's some that I missed, and I know it's a, you know, lumped up mess, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was. I did not realize that they were this thick, the vines, and I didn't realize that the tomatoes themselves on the vines were this thick. There is a lot in there that I couldn't see. I mean, there's a whole healthy cluster of them. That just looks like something out of a seed catalog, you know. But I've got them all picked up enough that it's cleaned up, and hopefully I can go through now with some pruners, and I'll start pruning off the lead tips of them so they stop getting as tall and lanky and messy. I'll start pruning them to try to encourage them to bush out a little bit, but it's really hard for me to prune if there's any blooms on it, so I got to try to prune the tips that don't have a bloom yet, is my plan. So anyway, That end looks pretty good because those plants are smaller and I was able to tie them up easier. But right in here and over there, I actually started by tying up 3 to 4 vines in one loop at a time just to get things picked up. And the more I picked up, it was like the more that I found. So you can see right in here, it's just quite the tangled mess, just strings all over the place. Like I said, and I know there's a few that I didn't actually tie. They're just kind of tangled up in the rest of the mix. So anyway, it's tied up for now. Like I said, it ain't great, but it's given me an idea what I'd like to do. Ultimately, you know, I want to have this garden be sort of a no-till garden, kind of like a market garden setup, you know, 30-inch wide earthen beds or whatever. That's what I'd like to work towards. And so when that happens, I would like to come across all the ends of the rows here and, you know, set like a 12-foot treated timber, you know, and bury it down deep in the ground and actually build proper stretch of cable, you know, and actually build proper headers across each row. And then have it be tall enough that if I do want to plant corn or something or beans, it doesn't really matter. But if I do want to plant something that's going to have to be tied up, I've got it as an option overhead to tie up. I could use it for draping shade cloths. I could use it for, shoot, I guess draping plastic in the wintertime, you know, that you kind of see what the options are there. But anyway, yeah, tomatoes are the priority. Got them picked up mostly for now. We'll see how this works out. You can see how much that wire already sagged on the far side. It sagged a lot, and it will continue to sag as it relaxes and straightens. Maybe once it straightens out a little bit, I can, you know, take this end loose or take the far end loose and kind of re-stretch it. But it is very difficult to stretch that stuff because it just wants to coil back up on itself. But anyway, tomatoes are picked up and cleaned up. Man, look at that cluster. Wowzers. They're picked up and cleaned up for now, so we'll see how they do long term. So I got a little something here for my tomato issue. This is a bag. It says it's basically calcium supplement, but you can see by the guarantee analysis, 33% calcium and another 87% calcium carbonate equivalent, which mathematically that doesn't actually add up. But anyway, it's basically concentrated calcium, shy of just putting on straight lime dust for your calcium carbonate, but it's a pelletized form, so it makes it a little easier to put out than a dust would be. But what you can see here, of course, increases the pH in soils and acidic soils, which is more the carbonate aspect of it, by replacing hydrogen and aluminum with calcium, increasing nutrient availability, which is interesting because we have clays, and clays tend to have some aluminums in them. Supplies turfgrass with the calcium that they need. Somewhere in here, stimulates soil microbial activity. Somewhere on here I saw it said something about being a soil amendment for calcium imbalance. Maybe it's on the front. Restoring proper balance to the soil plant system, which is what my issue is. Oh, it improves root growth too. That'd be excellent. So anyway, this is for the tomatoes because I was telling you guys, I believe I was telling you, I was having a problem with blossom end rot, and I'll see if I can come through here and find another one. I picked a few off yesterday. See, there's one suffering from it. And almost everything I have, so far anyway, that I've seen, as it starts to ripen, it also starts to rot. Here's what I pulled off yesterday. It's been stepped on, but you can see it's rotten. This is an heirloom variety here. I think it's like a, not an old German, I don't remember exactly what it is, but, oh, it is an old German. And I haven't seen it suffering yet like the Romas are. All the rest of this down through here, most of all of it's Romas that we put in so we could have sauce tomatoes and canning tomatoes as well. Anyway, so I'm going to go along with my little, I've got a little solo cup, and I'm just going to dump some of this pelletized calcium at the base of each tomato plant, and then I'm going to water it in well, and then I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole garden as well and just hand broadcast it to try to balance the entire soil. I'm not really sure if peppers can suffer from a blossom end rot like a tomato can, but they're part of the same family, so I think maybe they could. I don't know for sure, but like I said, I'm going to go through and just try to get a little bit of it out for the whole garden, to balance the whole garden. And then I've also got some dry molasses that I'm going to sprinkle out in general. It encourages the good soil balance, the microbiology in the soil, as well as deters fire ants. So anyway, the key focus here is the calcium for the tomatoes. So let me get that put out. Okay, well, I just went through and I got all the calcium put out. I just kind of top dressed it. On all the tomatoes and the peppers, I poured, you know, I don't know, 1/8 of a cup or something like that at the base of each plant. And then on the rest of the garden, I just did a top dress along the base of the plants, along the base of the rows with the calcium. And then I also went through with the dry molasses, like I mentioned, and just put that all through the whole garden. That's just more of a general treatment. You know, yes, we have fire ants down here, but it's not like I was having a persistent problem that I had to treat for fire ants. I'm doing it more preventative, general maintenance. And anyway, yeah, then I went through and I watered directly everywhere that I put down the calcium to try to water it in, and then now I'm just going to run the sprinkler as a general watering. I think I mentioned this in a video the other day about setting up the sprinkler, but I don't know that I ever mentioned that I actually got it going. But got it going, super happy with it as far as the coverage and the quality of it. So anyway, let's hope this calcium dosage helps out my tomatoes, because there's a lot of green tomatoes on and I would really hate to lose them all to something that silly.